After spending hundreds of hours figuring out exactly how blueprints work, I now know exactly where blueprints spawn. This video is going to cover every single blueprint in the game and the best place to get them. Let's start with medical blueprints. Now bear in mind, a lot of these blueprints have higher chances of spawning in certain areas, but that doesn't mean they can't spawn anywhere else. Sometimes a blueprint can only spawn in their designated container, but like the case of the Vita shot, it can spawn in residential areas. You can see me here getting it from a wardrobe. However, this is astronomically unlikely. You're more likely to get many other blueprints instead. If you're going for these 3 blueprints, your best bet is to loot medical style containers. It doesn't actually matter if you're in a medical zone, it has to be a medical container. For example, here I am getting the Vita shot again inside one of these white medical pull-out drawers, which appear across all of the maps in all sorts of areas. Now, if you are specifically going for these blueprints, though, it does make sense to go to specific areas on certain maps because there are just more medical containers there. If we take a look through the maps, I'll show you some places we can find the most amount of medical containers, starting with Buried City. Pretty much every container in a hospital is a medical container. And then you can run across here to Space Travel and Research, where you'll find blue medical drawers in both of these buildings. This is a great place to farm it if you're looking for those blueprints. Moving over to Stella Montes, of course, you have the entirety of medical research. Almost every container in this area is a medical container, with the exception of the room downstairs, which has some augment containers in. But yeah, pretty much everything in here could drop it. Move on to Spaceport. There are some medical containers at the top of launch towers, and also there's a medical area in Departure Building. Not that many in this map, and they're quite spread out. So if you're really hyper-focused on those those blueprints, I would probably advise not doing Spaceport. Down Battlegrounds, there's a lot of medical containers in Testing Annex. You'll find an entire floor filled with medical containers. In fact, that is where I found my Vita Spray blueprint. The research and administration area upstairs also has quite a number of medical containers, which are worth checking if you're in the area too. On Bluegate, you have a few medical containers around all over the map. There's one over here in the abandoned housing project. There's one over here in an underground room, right next to a broken building. And then if we go to there's also one in Checkpoint. There's a few in Gate Control Room. And if we go underground, there's above the breachable room where everyone goes to get their augment blueprints, there's an entire floor filled with medical containers. So Bluegate's okay for it, but if you're hyper-focused on finding these blueprints, I would honestly recommend Stella Montes or Buried City, or maybe down Battlegrounds. Now, remember, there are medical containers all across the map. I'm showing 4 of the most traditional containers that you'll find in different buildings. So if you see these and you're looking for these blueprints, definitely check these containers. Now remember those medical containers, because wherever you see a medical container, you could also find an augment blueprint. Yes, augment blueprints also spawn in medical style containers, just like the Defib, Vita Spray, and Vita Shot. A lot of people are struggling to find the augment blueprints because they're just running down into the security wing area of Bluegate and only looting the downstairs area. Now, all of these containers in this area here do contain augment blueprints. You can get them here. In fact, you can see me getting it here myself. However, that's not the only place. You are limiting your chance to find these things if you just constantly keep rushing down into this room and competing for the space and forgetting everything else. In fact, if you just go upstairs in this area, you'll find some medical containers that could contain the augment blueprints, as well as another augment box here. There's a few other augment boxes throughout the security wing that are worth checking as well, because these could contain the augment blueprints. You can also find more augment style containers in the lobby area on Stella Montes, as well as the business center. You can get augment blueprints in all of these places. All of these containers that you see on screen can contain augment blueprints, so don't limit your search just to Bluegate Security Wing. You'll probably drive yourself crazy trying to rush there, competing for this one loot spot when there are so many other places to find these things. Before we move on to the next one, complex gun parts seem to only spawn in augment style containers. Now, there may be a small chance they also drop in Raider style containers, which I'll talk about in a little minute, but I haven't seen it for a long time. So these same augment containers that you can get augment blueprints, you'll also find complex gun part blueprints. Yeah, did you see that? I got an anvil blueprint in here. If you're struggling for the anvil blueprint or some early game weapon blueprints, check these augment boxes as well. It seems to be a very rare chance this happens. It's only happened to me one time in my whole time of playing, so that's very strange. However, there are more containers that have the anvil blueprint, all of the weapon blueprints, and the gun parts blueprints. These are what I like to call raider containers. Let's go through what all of those are now. The thing is with these blueprints, and why some people struggled with finding maybe one or two in here, is this is a really large loot pool in terms of blueprints. So when you get lucky and find a blueprint from this raider style container, and we'll talk about which ones they are in a second, you could get any one of these blueprints. You might get really unlucky and just keep getting the same ones over and over. Like, I've had so many Osprey blueprints recently, I haven't seen an anvil. It just comes down to luck. You've basically got a 1 in 10 chance that you get the blueprint you want every time you get a blueprint from these containers. Luckily, there are a lot of these containers, so you just have to keep looting them until you get lucky. So, the number one, uncover ticking caches. There's a specific event for these, which makes finding them a lot easier, and the blueprint drop rate in these caches is quite a lot higher than a typical container. From my experience, it seems to be about 10%, so you can have more luck doing an uncover caches event to find these blueprints than you are in a typical raider container. However, you can still find these blueprints in the other raider containers. That includes raider backpacks, medical bags, ammo boxes, weapon boxes, and grenade cases. All of these things count as raider containers and share the same blueprint loot pool. Another set of blueprints that are seemingly common, but hard to get all of them because it's such a large blueprint loot pool, are the level 2 attachments, and for some reason the vertical grip 3. Yeah, that's just thrown in there for some reason. I don't know why. All of these blueprints are always found most commonly in residential loot containers. They can spawn anywhere, to be honest, but they do most commonly spawn in residential loot containers, so some good places to check. Bluegate Village is absolutely amazing because there's so many residential containers there, but pay attention to the fact that pretty much all across the map you're going to find residential containers, and this is the case of pretty much every single map in the game. Whether it's a trash can, a wardrobe in a broken down house, or anything similar, you could find an attachment blueprint there. When we move over to Spaceport, the same can be said about pretty much every container type here. Whilst, you know, there are some specific containers, like medical containers, you can find attachment blueprints in all of the desks here, all over the map. I've honestly had harder time finding blueprints in Spaceport. I do believe that the blueprint drop rate in Spaceport seems lower, but there are so many more containers, so you might have better luck there. Buried City is amazing. Pretty much this whole side of the map here has so many residential containers to loot through. Some notable options: the Plaza Rosa buildings here. We got the Piazza Augusto Pharmacy building here. The Main Street building, which has a breachable room. The Grandioso Apartments. There's also just so many extra containers all around this area. And there's a lot of residential containers in this side of the map as well. All of these could have these blueprints. Another really, really good option is to go to Stella Montes and loot the lobby and business center. All of these suitcases and trash cans count as residential loot containers. For the higher level attachments, there's a separate loot pool, and I'm quite convinced that this is dependent on map condition, not necessarily container type, although that does play a part potentially. It seems to be in 2x events, you have a higher chance of finding higher level attachment blueprints. Cold was the best for it, and then it went away. The current best option is Locked Gate. Now, Night Raids and Storm Raids can work as well, but Locked Gate is exceptional for high-level attachment blueprints. Just go and loot all of the residential containers, for example, in Village, and you can run back home with so many attachments. It's quite unbelievable. Yeah, I would suggest Lockgate if you can get online for it. Otherwise, try Night Raid or Electro Storm Raid, or wait for the upcoming Toxic Swamp event. I'm sure there'll be high-level attachment blueprints there as well. Whilst you're in Locked Gate, keep an eye out for the Bobcat blueprint, because this is the only event where the Bobcat blueprint will spawn, and it doesn't need to be within the Locked Gate area. It can be anywhere on the map. any container the Bobcat blueprint can spawn. Just like the Bobcat, the Vuicano can only spawn any specific event. This one is the Hidden Bunker event. Now, I've had the most luck finding Vuicano blueprints in locked key rooms. I don't know if that's true or not. I know it can be found absolutely anywhere, but I am seeing my own experience and a number of reports from my community saying they found it in a locked key room. So if you're really struggling to find the Vuicano blueprint, try and gather up some spaceport keys and open them during a Hidden Bunker event and you might get lucky. Found your Vuicano blueprint today in the control tower key room. So did I. So did I. There are 3 other event-specific blueprints at the moment, and that might change when Toxic Swamp comes around, but right now, if you want the Snaphook blueprint, you'll find it in the Electromagnetic Storm event. It can be in absolutely any container, it just needs to be within the storm itself, and you can find it there. In Night Raids, you can also find the Tempest and Wolfpack blueprints. I'd highly recommend searching residential areas, but it really can spawn anywhere. My biggest suggestions focus on Buried City as it has a lot of residential containers there. Or if you really want it, you could do no loadout runs with absolutely nothing on you but a free space in your safe pocket and go and loot Stellamontis lobby and security wing area, looting all of these suitcases and trash cans, and you can find the Tempest and Wolfpack blueprint there as long as you're in a night raid. There are also some other map-specific blueprints. Currently, only Stellamontis has map-specific blueprints, and this will be the Seeker Grenade, Aphelion, Gas Mine, Deadline, Trailblazer, and Pulse Mine. These can spawn in any container in Stellamontis, so just loot like crazy. Doesn't need to be a night raid, it can be a day raid if you'd like it to be. Loot as many containers as you can, and these will eventually pop up for you. Next, we've got the explosive blueprints. I've realized that the blueprints you see on screen right now drop more often in industrial style containers. Now, you need to be careful here because some containers will inherit the loot pool of that area. So, for example, a red locker, if in an industrial area, will have industrial blueprints. If the red locker is in a key room or somewhere else, it's going to have different loot. But if it's in an industrial area, it can have these blueprints. A good option for you is to go into the maintenance wing of Bluegate, or you can go into the dam primary facility, or you can try and loot Stellamontis loading bay. There are industrial containers like crazy there. Some notable options include the breachable rusty raider boxes, a red locker, or the shipping containers, which are found in plentiful amounts in Loading Bay and Stellamontis. The fireworks box may still spawn. I'm not sure. I haven't found it since the Cold Snap update was removed, so please let me know. It was previously spawning pretty much anywhere, but more commonly in industrial containers like the explosives, so I'm hoping it still spawns. Let me know if you found it since the Cold Snap map condition has been removed, because I personally haven't. There are some grenades that do not follow this rule. The tagging grenade and smoke grenade do not spawn in industrial containers. The smoke grenade spawns in residential containers alongside the same loot pool as level 2 attachments. The tagging grenade was a really interesting one. I couldn't figure this out for a long time, and then it hit me. There's a different loot pool entirely for the tagging nade, the remote raider flare, and the barricade. They are in electrical style containers, so server cabinets, breachable wall cabinets, androids, computers. These are the places you need to look if you want the barricade blueprint, remote raider flare, or tagging nade blueprint. Light stick blueprints seem to spawn pretty much anywhere, but I've had the most luck finding them in day raids, so just a standard old boring day raid may work quite well. And then these are all the blueprints you get for completing quests. If you just want the blueprints, but you just can't be bothered to do the quests again, there's a really interesting quest tree you can follow on the Arc Raiders wiki, which will tell you the quests you need to complete in order to get the quest blueprints. You don't have to do all of the quests. There's quite a useful resource I put in the pinned comment. And then finally, we have the Equalizer and Jupiter. These can only be acquired from either killing the Queen and looting the Queen core, the very large sort of sphere right in the middle when the Queen is dead, or completing the Harvester puzzle and looting the containers in the middle of the Harvester puzzle once the puzzle is completed. If you need help doing that, there's a video on screen showing you how to do it. Thanks for watching, my friends. I'll see you all in the comments.